Welcome in, you guys. I'm Ariel Onstad. It is great to have you here streaming along with us on our Friday afternoon. We want to get to the stories you're talking about, and one of those involves a very tragic situation. A 15-year-old is now facing charges for what police say was killing of an Uber driver. We know Lawrenceville police are now identifying that teenage suspect, and they say that this teen shot and killed the Uber driver on New Year's Day. Ray Urena joins us live from the Gwinnett County Jail. And Ray, this is just a horrible story. What are you learning about the investigation? What are police sharing with you right now?
Well, Ariel, police told me earlier today that they believe 15-year-old Christian Simmons, they believe he is the person who is responsible for shooting and killing 58-year-old Cesar Tejada, and they are also calling this a senseless act. Now, police investigators tell us that officers initially got the call at about 5:20 in the morning on New Year's Day to Groveland Parkway in Lawrenceville regarding a man who was lying in the roadway. And one of the neighbors that I spoke with today says that he woke up and saw Tejada's body just outside of his door. Police say an hour before they got the call, Uber and flock camera records show that Tejada picked up a customer from Rangewood Drive in Lilburn. And here's what police had to say earlier today and about what happened after he picked him up.
From there, Mr. Tejada drove the suspect to the 600 block of Groveland Parkway. That's where the ring camera shows the suspect exit the back seat, go to the front driver's side door where Mr. Tejada was shot. After he removed Mr. Tejada from the vehicle, he left the neighborhood. 10 minutes later, he returned to the neighborhood and then eventually went back to Lilburn.
Investigators tell me that using data from both Uber and Flock, they are able to pinpoint exactly where Simmons lived, and they ended up setting up a surveillance team. And then when Simmons eventually stepped out of the house, that's when investigators say they were able to come out and arrest him and charge him with murder. Now, it's important to note that Simmons is being charged as an adult, and just a little bit ago we were able to talk to the family of Cesar Tejada, and they told me that they want their privacy respected right now, but they do say they are asking people at home and the people watching the stream for prayers and thoughts for their family as they head into the new year by losing a loved one. Ariel?
Yeah, Ray, this is just horrible. This man's trying to provide for his family. I know that Captain Dina actually spoke about that at the beginning of that news conference, talking about how he was trying to earn some extra money during the New Year's Day holiday. We know, of course, too, when we talk about this story, I think a lot of times people often think about how they might be afraid of an Uber driver and maybe the Uber driver's unsafe, but this is just a warning story in terms of that can go both ways. You know, it's good to be aware of your surroundings. Just a horrible, horrible situation, and I know it has a lot of people talking. Ray, any other big questions you're trying to figure out or things you think people should be aware of as this story moves forward?
Yeah, one of the questions that we asked police was, what exactly was the motive behind this? And police, you heard from Captain Dina Pauley just a little bit ago, and she says that police believe that the underlying motive was that this 15-year-old just wanted to carjack this guy's vehicle, and that was the motive behind this murder. So we are still learning more facts, and then once we get that, we'll bring those to you, Ariel.
Ray, thanks so much for joining us live, letting us know where we stand with this story. I'm checking our YouTube, going to check our TikTok to see if anyone has any questions we can answer. But everyone, I mean, we all agree this is just really horrible. So Ray, thanks so much for joining us live. Guys, we're going to move on because in the vein of Uber driver stories, this wasn't the only shooting of a rideshare driver that we're covering just this week. We know that another rideshare driver was shot, and he realized it actually while he was driving early this morning on Boulevard. We don't have video yet of this situation, but I don't want a lack of video to be a reason why I don't talk about it. So let me get into it. Police say the victim, that rideshare driver who was working for Uber, actually told police that he heard gunshots and his rear windshield shattered. And as he's driving, he realizes he's actually been shot in the back. He rushes himself to the hospital. At that point, officers arrived and they've been investigating, trying to figure out the circumstances of the shooting. But this happened around 1 this morning near the 500 block of Boulevard Northeast. Male rideshare victim who was driving that vehicle rushed himself to Grady Memorial Hospital. We'll keep you updated on this as we learn any new information. But that is a story that our Tyler Fingert will have more information about coming up here at 3 o'clock. In the meantime, I want to let you know about a trial date that's been set for a teenager accused of killing her parents. A Carroll County judge has set that trial date for January 5th. And we're talking about suspect Sarah Grace Patrick. She's going to be charged as an adult in the deaths of her mother and stepfather. She's accused of killing 41-year-old Kristen Brock, 45-year-old James Brock in their Carrollton home back in February 20th of last year. She was 17 years old at the time. She turned herself in on July 8th, and she now faces 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault. Outside court, Patrick's grandfather continues to defend her innocence. She says no weapon's been recovered, or rather the grandfather points out that no weapon's been recovered and no physical evidence is linking Sarah Grace Patrick to the killings, according to her grandfather. Some key details still are not known, including the contents of the expert report in this and what exactly investigators say tie her to the crime and how her online activity might factor into the case. So a lot of questions still to be answered, and we'll probably get a closer look as we get into trial and understand this story a little bit better. But I want to move on here because as of right now, we know that a DeKalb County police officer is actually facing a really tragic situation. Eric Perry's here to talk more about this with us. Apartment fire early December, and now this police officer doesn't have a home, probably along with some other people who lived there.
Yeah, 40 people displaced here. So it happened in Norcross, even though that she's a DeKalb County police officer. This is Tiaja Gilliam, Officer Tiaja Gilliam there, who's with the DeKalb County Police. December 13th is when that fire took place there in Norcross. She said she was actually out and then got the call back home, and she was really emotional when she talked with us one-on-one there outside of her home. She says after that fire happened, it took her about a week, a little bit over a week, just to go back there because she was just so upset. She believes right now that it might have started in a fireplace there at the apartment complex, but she's lost everything, and now we're really seeing a rallying of family, friends, and her brothers and sisters beyond the badge there, as they are coming together to make sure that she has a place to lay her head. And she's also raising awareness, and I think it's so important. She says, you know, this happened at night, around 10 o'clock at night is when that call went out. And she says, thankfully to the fire alarms there that were able to alert people, alert the kids who might have been sleeping, but all of this happening right before the holiday time, right before Christmas time. And she says that she's usually on the other side of all of this, right? She's usually racing to the fire to help. And so it's been interesting for her to be on the receiving end of the help. And she actually says that this experience will help to make her a better police officer. She'll be able to have more empathy and really be able to understand what people and the victims are like when she moves forward there. So there are efforts to help her and the family there. We'll put that on our website, fox5atlanta.com. But really just a long step. She was by her mom. She was really emotional as she looked back and saw her apartment. She said you could see the bedroom in the living room. Her bedroom was here, the living room, you could see right through it. So just completely destroyed there. Nothing was able to be saved.
Do we know how that fire started?
She believes, according to a report that she got from Gwinnett County Fire, and she shouts out Gwinnett County Fire, Gwinnett County Police there, she believes it might have started in the fireplace of one of the units and then spread from there. But they're still investigating to pinpoint exactly, but that's how they believe it might have started.
It's interesting to me to think there's actually a fireplace that's wood burning in an apartment. I know it must be an older building because I feel like newer units, that's not very common. But it is incredible to think that this experience, she feels, will make her better at her job and serving others. I'd imagine that a lot of us can have the power of empathy, but once we go through a situation ourselves, it's just a whole different ball game.
Yeah, I think it really has changed her input and her outlook on how she's going to respond. And really, we all say that fire smoke detectors are so important, but they really are in in something like this where most people are asleep, and then you see something like this and it's able to alert them. She also talks about just how close and tight-knit that everyone was in that particular building, that she said she knew the kids that lived around her. They would have cookouts and really come together during family different events there, but unfortunately a lot of them are experiencing exactly what she's experiencing without a loss of her home. But it really, I think, is going to make her a better officer, and I think she'll be able to pull some sort of a lesson out of this. Not a lesson, but something that she will be able to take from all of this.
My phone is being slow to load, you guys, but I was trying to pull up TikTok to see if you have any comments. Here on YouTube, if you're streaming live with us on YouTube or TikTok, I'm looking through to see if you guys have anything to say. But as of right now, it looks like over 200 of you are joining us here on TikTok Live, so thanks so much for being here. If you got questions about this story or any others, let us know. But Eric, thanks so much. Horrible story, but I'm really glad the community's rallying around her. And as she feels the community's love, I think it's just a good way to know, hey, I'm loved. Let me go share this love with the world.
And that's exactly what she mentioned a little bit earlier, that, you know, it's overwhelming, but it's also very heartwarming to see just so many strangers coming together. It's really all during the holiday season as well.
Gooch says, let's please help her. So, Eric, do you know if there's a GoFundMe or any other?
There is, and we're going to work to put that on our website, fox5atlanta.com, because they are efforts to help her. Obviously, you know, she needs a new place, and starting from scratch, one of the things she says in the story I'm working on is that it's a new beginning. That's how she's going to start to look at this. So we'll put that information for those who want to help.
Eric, thank you so much. Okay, guys, let's move on, because as of right now, I want to let you know where we stand with a few other local stories here on your Friday afternoon. You're going to take a look at the youngest mayor of Stockbridge. He's going to be sworn in today, and this is pretty significant because he's the youngest mayor ever elected in the city of Stockbridge's history, and we know that he's 22 years old. His name's Jaden Williams, and he defeated a two-time incumbent in November. He did this also while pursuing a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science at Clark Atlanta University. Williams has said his victory reflects a desire for change among Stockbridge residents. He says he really wants to see the city grow into something where every single resident feels accommodated after the election. And when he says that, he means new residents, young professionals, working families, and teachers. He says that Stockbridge has an influx of teachers and seniors that live there in the community, and he wants to make sure they feel like Stockbridge is home. Today, he's going to be sworn in alongside newly elected City Councilwoman Lakeisha Gant. She represents District 1, and Councilman Antoine Cloud representing District 2. That ceremony's happening at 3 o'clock today, and our Angelique Proctor is going to be there, and she'll bring you more information as our live hours continue here throughout the day. In the meantime, you guys, looking ahead to some local news here in Atlanta, we know that Coca-Cola is actually planning some layoffs and some cuts here in the new year. And this is really at its Atlanta headquarters that we're going to see these cuts. But this is a part of an ongoing company-wide restructuring effort, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution was really the first to report this. But what we know is that there was a notice sent to the Georgia Office of Workforce Development, and the company said just about 2.5% of its workforce here in Atlanta at the headquarters is going to be affected. 75 employees expected to lose their job out of roughly 3,100 people who work there at the headquarters. This is all part of a broader corporate reorganization, according to Coke, and they first announced this back in October. So we'll continue to keep you updated, but Coca-Cola says it's trying to adapt to changes in consumer demand, technology, and innovation. So we'll keep you updated there. If you're still interested in seeing the Buddhist monks that are making their journey from Texas to Washington, D.C., I'd like to tell you where they're going to be at if you are interested in spotting them today. They're continuing their trek, and they're walking through Walton County today. So the monks are more than halfway through their journey. They're expected to make additional stops in Athens and Elberton before they leave Georgia, ultimately working their way to Washington, D.C. Or around February, mid-February is when they hope to end their journey in D.C. But the next major leg after they're out of here in Georgia is going to be North Carolina and Virginia as they continue north. So they've been traveling through 10 different states to be able to spread their message of peace and unity. And this is something that a lot of you guys have been really interested in. So if you have questions here in our YouTube or TikTok, let us know. I do know I see some comments here in YouTube saying best of luck to her. I'm glad the community is getting together to get her sheltered. And I think you're talking about that police officer. So as you guys are interested, we'll put that information on Fox 5 Atlanta. If you have any questions or want to help her out, you can do that. Another story I want to move on here to, and this is international, but it's really capturing a lot of attention. It doesn't look like we have any live pictures right now. There have been live pictures about a bar fire that happened in Switzerland, but we do have some videos showing you where this happened and what it looks like. We know that at least 40 people were killed and another 115 people hurt after a fire started during a New Year's Eve party at a bar at a ski resort there in Switzerland. And people were ringing in the new year. It was a party that turned into a nightmare. Just after 1:30 in the morning, this fast-moving fire tore through an iconic alpine ski resort. This is in the Crans-Montana region, located in the heart of the Swiss Alps. Very popular. There were a lot of young people there partying and celebrating, and right now it's believed that sparklers inside of a champagne bottle started that fire. 13 helicopters and 42 ambulances rushed to the scene to try to get people out. Besides the champagne bottles with the sparklers, there's also been some discussion as to whether or not a firecracker started the blaze. So those are the two causes that investigators are looking into. We know that people were panicked, trying to run for their lives out of the basement. Stairways were narrow, and this was really difficult to do. Others broke windows trying to escape. We'll continue to keep you updated as this progresses, but there were a lot of people visiting from other countries, a lot of young people there in this bar, and so this is just a really tragic situation. We know that the regional hospital now there in Switzerland, where this area is at full capacity, and the country's declared a state of emergency as they try to make sure that those who are critically injured get the help they need, and as they continue their recovery efforts. A helpline has been set up for families looking for answers and witnesses to give statements. So we'll keep you updated there. Another story that has a lot of you talking here really quickly involves a earthquake that happened in Mexico, and it actually interrupted the Mexican president's daily briefing. And what we know about this is that it was a 6.5 magnitude earthquake on the Richter scale. Seismic activity disrupted the first briefing of the new year from the Mexican president. You can see there the confusion as people began to realize what was going on. Seismic alarms blared during Claudia Sheinbaum's daily news briefing. She's the Mexican president, and she was telling people to leave and get out of that room. The epicenter was located near the town of San Marcos, and there were no immediate reports of damage or death. So we'll keep you updated if that changes. We have a little time here, you guys. I'm going to take a couple minutes. I want to let you know about a terror attack that was actually foiled by the FBI. This was set to happen on New Year's Day, and we learned a little bit more about where this was set to happen in North Carolina and how the FBI was able to stop this. Let's go ahead and just listen to a little bit from a news conference that officials held today.
Happy New Year, and it is a Happy New Year, although it came very close to not being such a Happy New Year for a lot of people this year. I'm here to announce, in partnership with the Mint Hill Police Department and the FBI, that we have foiled a terrorist attack that was planned to take place on New Year's Eve in Mint Hill, North Carolina. Now, New Year's Eve, we all know, is a wonderful time where we all celebrate the past year, we look forward to and plan the next year, and everyone deserves to do that, to celebrate the new year without being concerned about their personal safety. And thanks to the law enforcement that stands with me today and others, we are fortunate that people can do that. The FBI, the Mint Hill Police Department, the New York Police Department worked around the clock on this matter, not just building a case for us, but surveilling the subject and making sure the public was safe at every moment, including Christmas Day. They worked around the clock on this, and I very much appreciate it. The defendant here lived in Mint Hill. The planned attack was to take place in Mint Hill. And I want to thank Chief Joe Hatley of the Mint Hill Police Department for being with me here today and for your work over the holidays, Chief. I really appreciate it. I'm sure you know Jim Barnacle by now. He's the special special agent in charge of the FBI for North Carolina. The FBI worked tirelessly on this case, and I can't thank you enough for that. FBI agents spent their Christmas Day surveilling a subject so that families in Charlotte and Mint Hill and Western North Carolina could spend their day celebrating with their families, and I'm very thankful for that. That is true public service. If you see a police officer or an FBI agent, please thank them for spending their holidays on this so that we all could spend our holidays.
So you're listening to the district attorney talk a little bit about what went into this investigation, and we know that ultimately that suspect, Christian Sturdivant, 18 years old, of Mint Hill, was believed to have formulated a plan to be affiliated with ISIS, but they say in reality he was a government online covert employee who's referred to in this criminal complaint as OC. And one of the things, the reason why some of this matters is that prosecutors say that law enforcement searched his home December 29th and uncovered handwritten documents, one of which was titled New Year's Attack 2026, and they were able to find tactical gloves, a vest, knives, and other things that were supposed to be used in that attack. So he is facing numerous federal charges as of today, and we'll continue to keep you updated on this developing story. Real quickly, as we are coming up, we are going to be going to your weather forecast. That is coming up next, but I want to address, we have some YouTube commenters. We have someone talking about how jobs for Coke got AI'd, and you know, that is something a lot of people have been talking about, especially since Coca-Cola spent so much money on a fully artificial intelligence ad this year that was making big waves. The fact that they did not use an ad team necessarily to put that ad together. So we're navigating this intersection of business and technology where we see technology begin to replace a lot of different jobs and tasks. While Coke has not said that the jobs are being replaced by AI, I know that's something that you're talking about, and I wanted to address it here in our chat. We'll continue to keep you updated on that ski resort fire. I know that someone else is commenting how you've been there, and it's a beautiful place, and it's a really, really horrible thing. So yeah, we'll keep you updated on that. But right now, guys, you're seeing the shoulder of Jonathan Stacy because he's about to join us for our weather forecast. Yes, Jonathan, poke your head in here. Guys, we're going to talk about where we're headed weather-wise coming up. Welcome back in, you guys. Ariel Onstad here with meteorologist Jonathan Stacy. We got some rain popping up, so let's talk about it. Jonathan, what are we in store? What do we got in store?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a peek. We already have some showers that are coming down over I-75 to the north and to the west of the city. Gordon County, along with Murray, Whitfield, Chattooga, Dade County, our corner counties, as I like to call them, across the northwest corner of the state, along with a little bit of Floyd County getting in on some wet weather. And this is just a precursor to what will overtake the entire region as we go through the next 24-hour period. So let's zoom in and see the action here. You can see there are a couple showers on either side of I-20 there. I think there are. They haven't left. We're just getting some delayed radar returns. But as we go up to the north and to the west there, once again, the radar is continuing to have a bit of a mind of its own. There is action out there. I think we may be having a data problem. Fingers crossed. Okay. So let's just not focus on the here and now. Let's focus on what's next, which is why you really join us to get you ahead of things. So you can see this blob of moisture marching across the Mid-South and the Tennessee Valley. It continues to parade eastward, and then as it moves eastward into the south, it really kind of bulks up in intensity. So it gets a bit of an attitude as it rolls into the metro area. So it's now about 8 o'clock in the evening, and you can see up and down 75, 20 included, not quite to I-85 to the north and to the east of the city, but for most parts, especially west of town, you're dealing with some light to moderate showers. So stepping out for dinner tonight, dare you say you're going out tonight, this is what you're going to be dealing with. The clock is now set at 12 midnight going into Saturday morning. Some heavy downpours, likely some rumbles of thunder, something you haven't heard in quite some time. They'll right on through the overnight hours. By 4 o'clock in the morning, things are starting to improve in terms of coverage, but the cells that are still alive and well, they're bringing down some heavy rain, that heavy rain stretching from the state lines of Georgia and Alabama all the way to the state line of South Carolina and Georgia. Continuing to move across the I-20 corridor, even as the sun comes up. You won't see it. The clouds are going to block out the sunshine for the first half of the day. And then we need to zoom out. Let's zoom out, Ariel, because now I got to turn on my serious voice. Time for the weatherman to come out.
Oh, boy.
Okay? So look at this. I haven't seen the radar look like this in couple months.
That's pretty intense, yeah.
So if it were happening just 2 days ago, I would say it is the fall severe weather season, which is our secondary severe weather season in the South. However, it's a new year and we're firmly in winter and it feels like spring.
It really does.
So we're going to say this is how we get the severe weather season kicked off here. We know just 2 years ago that we actually had a tornado outbreak here in Georgia during the month of January.
Wow.
Just a year ago, we had 2 snowstorms.
We did, yeah.
January can come with a little bit of both, but I don't want you to sleep on this activity, especially if you may be traveling to Macon, Augusta, Albany, Tallahassee, Brunswick, the Golden Isles, Savannah, going even into Charleston, South Carolina. These storms have a bit of a nasty attitude as they exit the area, so it's really the PM hours of tomorrow that I'll be most concerned about that moisture. The Atlanta metro area is not in the conversation. Maybe the extreme southern part of the ATL viewing area. We're talking about Troup counties along with Jasper and Putnam. Sunday's okay. That's why I'm scrolling through this fairly quickly. So we'll look for the focus of some stronger storms to be over central and south Georgia as we get into the second half of your day, Saturday. There is a low-end threat for tornadoes. There's also a threat there for some damaging wind gusts. Along with that, you have the threat for hail.
Wow.
So it's a whole kit and caboodle. It's all a level 1 out of 5. Nonetheless, like I say, many people could be traveling and you're thinking, okay, I'm just going to get out of here sometime when I get my act together on Saturday. Well, the storms have their act together and they're going to blossom. I wouldn't be surprised if the National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center see something and they're saying, okay, this level 1 is not going to do it. It could be a level 2. So let's not sleep on this. I know we're not used to it because we have had some relatively calm weather over the past several months, it seems like. But I don't think Saturday's going to be anything that's reminiscent of calm, especially south and to the east of the city.
Okay, very good to know. I'm going to take that in note if I'm traveling on Saturday. Sure. So, Jonathan, thank you.
Look at me. I'm doing praying hands again.
Yeah, I know.
If you don't know what we're talking about, just go to the Fox 5 Atlanta
Instagram. People, you know, the news prayer hands. Some of you were commenting on TikTok and YouTube yesterday about the prayer hands and why we always do this with our hands. Jonathan, it's just
Praying for your safety.
Yeah, I like that. Amen. Amen.
Peace out.
Spoken like a minister. All right, guys, let's move on.
Peace out.
We've got some new year, new laws to talk about. It is the start of 2026, which means that we are going to see some new laws take effect. Thousands of laws going into effect across the nation. And a common thread here is that there's going to be raises to minimum wages in multiple states. Washington State has become the first to exceed a $17 minimum wage. And in Denver, the local minimum wage is going to increase to almost $20 an hour. What do you think of that? Critics are warning these types of numbers are actually going to be unsustainable for business owners. But at a recent protest, Senator Bernie Sanders celebrated the increase and predicted more minimum wage increases are going to come. In California, a law forbidding ICE agents from wearing masks is going to go into effect, really all immigration agents. But the White House has already said that the federal authorities are not going to comply. Meanwhile, different story in Texas, as you might imagine. Law is going to require sheriffs in Texas to work with ICE. In Utah, drivers convicted of extreme DUIs are going to be restricted from buying alcohol. So if you are in Utah and you have had multiple DUIs, you may not be able to buy alcohol the same way you used to be. A new state ID is going to mark you as no alcohol safe above the photo. So you can see that in that example that we just showed you. As for what to expect over the next year, the White House says it's going to work with Congress to make President Trump's Make America Great Again policies federal law. And it seems like everybody's talking about artificial intelligence. There are new laws now in 38 states dealing with the use of AI. So we're going to talk about that as the new year progresses. But age-old question here, you guys. Curious about what you think. Should lawmakers be able to trade stocks? Because we're revisiting that question in 2026. There's a new effort and a new push, or maybe a continued effort and push, to regulate stock trading by congressional lawmakers. It's been talked about for a long time. Will this year be the year it finally happens? And it's a bipartisan effort, truly. GOP Florida Representative Ana Paulina Luna is actually really spearheading this. She wants to make sure that lawmakers cannot add to their congressional portfolio while they're in office. And she wants to make sure that that ban and that bill actually extends in some cases to family members, basically saying that congressional leaders have an unfair advantage with the inside things that they know working on Capitol Hill and making laws that affect businesses and everyday people. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has asked why Republicans won't invest in the Democrats' trading ban bill, and that would reach beyond Capitol Hill, so it wouldn't just be congressional lawmakers who couldn't trade stocks. It would also include the president and vice president from any party would also not be able to engage in stock trading while in office. So there's that additional layer, right? Like, do you think that, congressional leaders that you elect should be able to trade stocks? And then beyond that, what do you think about the president and vice president being able to do this? Congress already requires lawmakers to publicly disclose their holdings. Republicans point out that former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi actually traded tens of millions of dollars over a 3-year period, and her investments outperformed both the S&P 500 and Warren Buffett. Pelosi says she complies with the law and everything's above board. Congress overwhelmingly passed the Stock Act in 2012, curbing some stock trades for lawmakers, but still there's concern that lawmakers could use insider information about legislation to trade stocks and boost their returns. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on as we progress here in 2026. Something else, it looks like you guys have some comments about that on TikTok. Pearlie's saying, I think politicians should take a vow of poverty if they're truly into serving the public. So that's hot take, right? Looking through YouTube to see if any of you guys have anything to say. But in the meantime, I do want to let you know the White House is going to delay tariffs on a lot of goods here in the new year. We were talking about in 2026, President Trump was going to say new year, tariffs are going to be in full effect, but he's actually actually rolling that plan back a little bit, delaying price hikes on multiple products because they're delaying the tariffs. The administration, Trump administration, is facing criticism over rising prices, so that's probably a big reason for this. But President Trump is kind of taking a step back from some parts of his economic policy. That tariff that was supposed to go into effect was going to apply to furniture, kitchen cabinets, and vanities, and it was set to begin January 1st, but the White House now is saying it's going to keep its rate at 25% until at least next year. In November, consumer data showed furniture costs outpaced inflation, making products less affordable for many Americans. The White House is also backing off of proposed tariff hikes for 13 Italian pasta companies after several of these pasta companies warned that tariffs would shut them out of the U.S. market. Experts say this new policy signed into law is actually going to help Americans this tax season as part of the One Big Beautiful Bill. So that's what some experts are saying, that this all things together, more Americans could see some returns in their taxes, and that could help with the affordability issues that a lot of people are complaining about. We're going to talk more about that as we get into tax season. But as it relates to tariffs, keep in mind the Supreme Court is still currently reviewing the president's tariff authority, and it could potentially force the Trump administration to refund some of the billions it has gained from these tariffs. So in the meantime, right now, we're delaying some tariffs. That's what we're seeing, and we'll keep you updated as to where we're heading as things progress. Guys, coming up here, we've got some other stories to get to. I'd like to tell you about how we can build better habits in the new year. We're also going to check in with our Chris Rosenthal as we progress here about a pastor that's now beginning his journey to walk across America. It seems to be something that we're seeing a lot more of as people advocate for peace. So we're going to talk about that as we continue here at 2 o'clock. Welcome back. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for streaming along here with us. If you're headed into the new year with a suitcase full of resolutions, maybe you should consider a lifestyle change instead. Let's skip the cycle of guilt, self-pressure, and focus on building better habits. We've got an author and business leader, Shane Jackson, here joining us live. Shane, I understand you're an Atlantan, you live in Alpharetta, and you're here to talk to us about how we can build better habits in the new year. So I think my first question is, why should we skip the guilt and the self-pressure? Is it because it's not really effective? Is there a better way? Tell us about it.
Why would you want to skip something like guilt? And I mean, doesn't it sound great? But
It
no,
sounds like the best
this is
thing
what
to
we
do.
do. Yeah, this is what we do to ourselves every year with these resolutions, where we come in and we set ourselves up with these lofty ideals of things that we, kind of maybe aspire to, and then we get a few weeks into the year and we've crushed our own hopes and dreams by giving up on all of them. I think there's a way to do it better, and instead of focusing on like kind of these habits and things we aspire to, it's to focus on the things that are really truly important to us, and the things that when we look back on this moment that we're going to be very glad that we did.
So Shane, I'm curious, how can we build these strategies for better habits? What does that switch look like?
So first of all, I have a really a good friend who years ago, he was doing all this research on high-performing athletes and people who were just like excellent in their craft, and he was trying to discover the secret of great habits. And a few years later, I asked him, I said, "Hey, why did you never write a book on that?" And he said, after looking at all of this, he said, "I think I discovered that there's no such thing as a good habit. There are certainly bad habits," he said, "but the things that you have to do repeatedly to make yourself great, to live the life that you want to live, to be excellent at something," he said, "they never become habitual. They always require choice." And I think that's the thing for us to embrace, is that if you want to live in a way that it's going to be the way you're glad you lived, it's embracing the fact that you have choice, that you are making choices every single day. When you wake up, you're choosing, how am I going to spend my time and energy? And it's a question of what you want the outcome of those choices to be, or said differently, what's your purpose, what you're looking for as the outcome and the result of all the choices that you're making.
Shane, it sounds like a really unique way to approach things, probably more effective. I'm fighting a bit of a coughing attack, so you have to excuse my voice that's taking a break on me. But tell me a little bit about your book and how you try to help people come up with this idea of purpose over resolutions.
Yeah. So one of the things I've learned in talking to a lot of people about this idea of purpose is we tend to shy away from purpose for one of two reasons. The first is that it sounds too esoteric, too impossible to understand, and it's just not worth it. Like, no one can understand questions like, why are we here? What's my purpose? Like, that's just too esoteric. The second we shy away from things like this is we go, okay, well, even if I could understand purpose, like, purpose doesn't meet the reality test. I have to get food on the table. I got to get my kids to soccer practice. I got to, get home from work. I got like all this sort of thing. Like, I don't have time to go be Gandhi and live purposely and all of that. And what I try to do in this book is to bust both of those myths. Purpose is something that you can understand. It's purpose at its basic form is just the desired outcome that you have, the result you want from something. I'm doing this action because I want this result. That's my purpose. And embracing, as I said earlier, the choices that you have in life, and it's what's the outcome, what's the result you want of those choices. Said differently, how do you want to experience your life? That's all purpose is. And then make it easy of saying, like, okay, well, what are the choices that I can make? The small things. I don't have to go live on a mountain and be Gandhi or whatever, but there are things in my life today that I can choose to start doing that lead to a more purposeful existence, to lead to the experience of life that I wish I had. And that's what the book does.
I love it. Shane, I think it's really important that if we want to stick to our goals, we have to be serious about who we actually are as people, and where we want to go in life, as opposed to pressuring ourselves into doing something that we may not stick with because we're not using the right motivators. So I really appreciate your time today, joining us live. I know we're going to see you again here at 3 o'clock, and we're going to continue to unpack this. Shane Jackson, author of This Is the Thing. And Shane, I really appreciated it, and I look forward to seeing you back here at 3. So thanks so much for your time today.
Love it. Thanks, Ariel.
Thank you, Shane. Okay, guys, we've got some other news coming up for you as we continue along here. We're going to check in with our Chris Rosenthal as a pastor's making his journey here across America. Also, our Eli Jordan is showing us a little bit more about a boat show. We're going to unpack what that's all about here next. Welcome back. I'm Ariel Onstad. Thanks so much for streaming here with us. A local pastor is trading the pulpit for pavement as he's beginning his journey to walk across America. Chris Rosenthal joining us live, showing us the beginning of the journey. Chris, it looks like you're walking there with the pastor. Introduce us to him and what's this all about?
Yeah, absolutely. Pastor Brooks here and I, he's been walking all the way since New York since September, and my little phone here is acting a little goofy. Let me flip that around here, but
Stop.
yeah, we're gonna stop here anyway. So, Pastor's been walking since September with the mission of walking across America, but for a cause. And just tell me a little bit about that. Why this walk?
So we're walking across America. We started September the 1st in New York Times Square. It's the Walk Across America to restore merit and help bring the American dream back one block at a time. We're raising funds, $25 million for 4 things. Number one, we're building a $50 million center on the south side of Chicago. We've already raised $40 million. Our goal is to make sure that it's debt-free. 2, we're opening a Christian classical boys and girls school private with free tuition. Thirdly, we're creating an endowment so we don't have to depend on government funds. And then 4th, we want to plant project hoods in major cities. So we need seed capital to do that.
And this is more than just about walking. You've been, making stops along the way and giving back. And talk to me about, you've been here in Atlanta for about a week now. Talk to me about what you've done since you've been here.
So we are always giving back. Every major city that we go to across America. We had a big event in D.C. With about 1,000 kids, a block party. But when we came to Atlanta, we decided that we wanted to do something with the homeless. So we stopped with the Gateway Center. I believe that's what it's called. And we had some celebrities come out, Taronda Jones, and a lot of different celebrities came out to help us feed the homeless. And it was a big event on Monday. And we were really grateful to be able to do that. We made a lot of contacts and we met a lot of people. We were able to pray for a lot of people. But most of all, we were able to partner with some organizations that are here in Atlanta to let them know they're not alone, and to let them know we want to shine light on the work that they do, because we'll be walking on, but they'll still be here. So we try to go to every city and leave a blessing.
What next?
What next is we have a donor event. So we get to stop for a week and not walk, but we're going to Naples, Florida for 3 donor events. And then if people want to find out information about that, they have people in the Naples area where they want to travel down. They can go to projecthood.org. And then after that, we'll come back to right outside of Atlanta, and we'll start heading toward Alabama on our way to Los Angeles, where we will get there next September 19th. We'll have a big party in Los Angeles, California. That's our goal.
Walking all that way, huh?
Walking all the way, nonstop. We walk Monday through Friday, 12.5 miles a day. Take Saturdays and Sundays to do events and make up some walk miles if we're behind. But that's the goal.
Are your feet tired yet?
I got a little foot problem on my right foot, but I just keep it pushing, and sooner or later it kind of breaks in, especially when you're a little older like I am. It takes you a couple of miles just to get warmed up, like an old car.
Well, I know this morning they started in Buckhead, and now we're in Midtown. So, and then, like they said, they're gonna be heading down to Florida after this.
Incredible that you're joining him for his journey, and the fact that he's made his way this far today, and you're there along for it. That's great. I think it's so remarkable. So many people, I feel like, are starting these walk across America journeys. I know we see it from time to time, but it just seems like there's a lot more people that want to be a part of something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great way to see the country and to meet a lot of people, and a lot of the it's sort of like being on tour, huh?
A little bit.
Yeah, and
meet a lot of interesting people and have a lot of great conversations, and you really get to see America at its best, and so that's really good.
America at its best.
Yeah,
I
you're
love
there,
it.
America at its best.
And the smile on Pastor Corey's face, you can tell he's just joyful. He's not letting anything get him down. So, Chris, I appreciate this. Thanks for introducing us to him. I know we're going to get another look at him at 3 o'clock and understand where he's headed, but down to Florida. Chris, thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move on here, you guys, because right now we know that actually a bunch of boats are getting ready for a show, and this is happening at the Georgia World Congress Center. These boats are going to be docking for the Discover Boating Atlanta boat show coming up here in the weekend. Eli Jordan is there to introduce us to some of these. Eli, what you got going on behind you out there?
Oh, we got boats moving in here, Ariel. They're like coming in all over the place. There are going to be 400 boats inside the Georgia World Congress Center. And it's for a show the next week, but they got to start early because it's not very easy to get a bunch of boats into this place. And you can see, we got some real pretty boats here, but we, got some traveling straps, with the things strapped down. And the workers here, they've had their lunch out here. They've been working hard all day. They've been out here since 5 this morning, getting all these boats moved out here for Atlanta residents come out and check out. And I am with Courtney Earhart. She is the boat show manager. Hey, Courtney, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Now tell me, what's the appeal like in Atlanta for boats? Because we're landlocked. We don't think of Atlanta being a coast city because it's not.
We have a lot of lakes. All of these boats can be put on your lakes. So the majority of our dealers are on Lake Lanier. Like I think about 7 of our dealers are actually on that Lake Lanier strip alone, and then we have quite a few dealers on Lake Altoona. So they are focused on any boat that can go on the lake. They will try to have a boat that can go on the lakes.
So when people come here, you guys have been coming here for several decades now.
Yes.
Here in Atlanta, what can people expect when they come here to the boat show here at the World Congress Center?
Well, they can expect all types of boats. We have the fishing boats, the wake sport boats where you can do wake sport surfing, surf boats. We have a lot of pontoons, which are very family friendly. Like over here, we have a double-decker pontoon, which is one of the few double-decker pontoons we have in the show.
And it has a slide on it, too.
It does have a slide on it, but you can't do it here. You got to do it when you get into water. And then after that, we also have accessories. Any accessories you might need for your boats, we will have accessories here. And then we have kids zone, full kids zone. We have quite a few seminars. The fishing seminars are quite popular with families. And then this year, Captain John over here is going to be doing his first round of Before You Pack Your Cooler safety seminars with the Coast Guard.
So that's one thing. I mean, the boat show is more than just, hey, come look at our boats, maybe buy a boat or something like that. It's also an educational opportunity.
It is, yes.
Tell me about that a little bit. You're mentioning some of it, but, if I've never owned a boat, I've never launched a boat before, could I, find resources here at the boat show to, make me feel more confident about the first boat that I buy?
Yes. We have a section called Fred's Shed where you can go and ask any questions on how to maybe fix your boat or any other things you might need to know about boats. The Before You Pack Your Cooler seminar series is all the safety stuff you need to get before you even get on a boat, things to prepare your boat. And then the fishing seminars teach you how to fish, like bass fishing and things of that nature. But also our dealers, a lot of them have one-on-one workshops once you buy your boat to tell you how to take your boat into water, how you put gas in your boat, and how you launch your boat.
Awesome. And so tell me, what days are the boat show and the hours?
The boat show is Thursday, January 8th through Sunday, January 11th. The hours are Thursday and Friday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And these guys will be probably working the next, week, I guess. It takes about a week to get all the boats in here.
It takes about a week to get all the boats in here. And some of these guys will work to 8:30, 9 o'clock every night up until Tuesday.
And, it's more than just forklifts. I've seen some semi-tractor trailer, crane-type towing trucks in here, moving some big, real fancy boats in here.
Yes. And a lot of people also use their the tractor trailers to pull the boats in from the marshalling yard across the street because it's a lot faster sometimes than using the forklifts. So they'll have the big trailers that they bring from their dealership and pull the boats in that way.
So real quick, bottom line though, what is it about boats that makes them so cool and so appealing for so many people to get you guys down here to do a boat show?
It's family fun activity for everybody in your family to be on the water, and our slogan is "See you out there." To see you out there on the water, no matter what area you're in. Like we have multiple boat shows, and we just want people to be out on the water and have fun and be with your family and your friends.
Awesome, awesome. Well, the Atlanta Boat Show, Ariel, it is getting ready for next week's opening. It opens next Thursday, and it runs through next Sunday, the 11th.
Correct.
And today and tomorrow and the rest of the week until Thursday, there's going to be a lot of workers here at the Georgia World Congress Center moving in a bunch of beautiful boats for all of us to come check out become envious, do some window shopping, daydream, or plan our escape, or just buy it and have a party and go surfing. And
you are allowed to get on the boats.
Oh, we can't get on the boat?
No, you can. On the show, everybody,
yeah.
During the show, you are allowed to get on the boat.
So you can get on the boats and check out what it's like, down in the cabin and everything. Oh, that's cool, yeah. So we're allowed to get on the boats and check them out, and then we can take them home with us. No, I'm joking. But so it should be a cool show to come check out all the boats that your heart desires, and then climb in them and see how the driver's seat feels, and see what the cabin is like, and then see if it's right for you. Do you want a pontoon boat, or do you want a surfer boat, or do you want a fishing boat, which they're back behind? You're right, exactly. There's so many different kind of boats you can get. They also have personal watercrafts here, like jet skis and things like that. And like Courtney said, they got accessories here you can look at and see what all you need. And you probably get a bunch of expert advice too if you're having some problems. So come on out, plan it next week. Come out to the boat show. But they're getting ready here at the Georgia World Congress Center, working really hard to get these beautiful boats out here for display and demonstration.
Yeah, looks like a great time. People, you have a little bit of time to check this out through the next week, so that's great news. You can see the cranes at work, putting them out, making sure they're all lined up. So Eli, thanks so much for showing us this, giving us a sneak peek of what to expect. And now we're going to check back in with you at 3 o'clock to see where we're headed and what this looks like. So thanks so much, Eli. I appreciate it. And guys, as we continue here, thanks so much for streaming along with us. I'm Ariel Onstadt. We've got a lot of news coming up. We're going to talk about the Uber driver that we know was killed after a carjacking. A 15-year-old's being tried as an adult in that case. And it's not the only story we're following this afternoon involving a rideshare driver being shot. So this is interesting, and we're going to talk more about that coming up here at 3 o'clock. We're also going to talk about a Georgia freshman who suffered a skiing accident and how the communities are rallying around them coming up at 3. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for streaming along here with us. We've got a lot of stories to get to on your Friday afternoon. One of the first ones involves a 15-year-old who is now being tried as an adult, accused of killing an Uber driver. So let's get into it, because this is a story that has a lot of you talking online. And we know that as of this afternoon, officials actually held a news conference to address the situation earlier today. But they say that a 15-year-old. Both the victim and the suspect were identified during that news conference today. Police say they used doorbell video to track the victim's stolen SUV and located the 15-year-old suspect in Lilburn. Ultimately, Uber banned the Associated Rider account and is assisting Lawrenceville investigators with this ongoing homicide case. But it's absolutely heartbreaking because this man was trying to provide for his family, working for Uber on New Year's Day in the wee hours of the morning. And they say that that is when 15-year-old Christian Simmons of Lilburn got into that SUV. And they say that they ultimately believe that teen shot the Uber driver. Let's listen in as a captain with the Lawrenceville Police Department updated on us on the arrest and where we're moving forward from here.
Good morning. We're here to update you this morning on the senseless murder of a husband and a father of two who was just trying to provide for his family yesterday morning. The victim has been identified as 58-year-old Cesar Tejado of Grayson, Georgia. First, let me say our thoughts and condolences are with the Tejada family. It's a senseless act and not the way any family would want to start a new year. I'm going to start by telling you about how this unfolded yesterday morning. The Lawrenceville Police Department received a 911 call at 5:20 a.m. Stating that there was an unresponsive male in the roadway. Officers responded and located a male with a gunshot wound who was pronounced deceased on the scene. Detectives arrived on scene and began utilizing flock cameras and ring cameras where they identified a black SUV as the vehicle of interest. Flock was able to identify the vehicle, running the license plate. It was determined that the vehicle used was actually the Uber driver's, the victim's vehicle. We were able to contact the family and confirm that he was out working as an Uber driver. With that, we were able to utilize Flock and find out that the vehicle in question continued after disposing of the body on the roadway, continued towards Lilburn, Georgia. We contacted Uber, who was very helpful in providing information, and we were able to get the following timeline. At 4:13 a.m., Mr. Tejada went to pick up a customer on Rangewood Drive in Lilburn. From there, Mr. Tejada drove the suspect to the 600 block of Groveland Parkway. That's where the ring camera shows the suspect exit the back seat, go to the front driver's side door where Mr. Tejada was shot. After he removed Mr. Tejada from the vehicle, he left the neighborhood. 10 minutes later, he returned to the neighborhood and then eventually went back to Lilburn. Again, using Flock and Uber records, we were able to determine that the vehicle was left in the same neighborhood where Mr. Tejada originally picked up the suspect. Detectives were able to identify a possible suspect that lived in the area where they placed officers in front of the home. And at that time, the suspect exited the home, began walking down the road, and we were able to take the suspect into custody. That suspect has been identified as 15-year-old male Christian Simmons of Lilburn. I want to thank the outstanding work by our officers and our detectives, and we also would like to thank Uber with their partnership. This partnership was instrumental in bringing this to a swift close.
You're listening to a police captain of the Lawrenceville Police Department update on a shooting that happened in the early morning hours of New Year's Day, tragically killing an Uber driver, 15-year-old charged in that murder case and with the carjacking. But this is not the only rideshare driver who was shot here in the past couple of days. We're learning a little bit more about a rideshare driver who was driving down the road when he heard his back window get busted out. Our Tyler Finger joins us now live to talk about this story. And Tyler, I understand that Uber driver, or rather rideshare driver, was actually shot in the back as a result of this.
Yeah, Ariel, good afternoon to you. That's exactly right. Atlanta police say that the rideshare driver was here on Boulevard at some point overnight, about 1 o'clock in the morning, when he heard gunshots. And then at that point, he realized he had actually been shot himself. Investigators say the gunfire erupted near Fort Street United Methodist Church at around 1 a.m. Friday morning. A neighbor who lives here tells me he heard it, but thought they were fireworks. Atlanta police say one of those bullets struck a man. The victim told investigators he was driving for a rideshare service when the shots rang out and his rear view window shattered. He realized he'd been shot in the back and drove himself to Grady Memorial Hospital. Atlanta police haven't released many details as officers work to piece together exactly what happened, but neighbors have their thoughts on what happened. One said he thinks the driver was hit by a stray bullet. Take a listen to what neighbors told us this afternoon.
That's surprising, because I've been on this block for 3 years now, and nothing happened to me, so that's crazy.
It ain't even safe no more, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, everybody has to walk by faith, because you never know what's going on, especially this area right here.
Yeah, so those are two different neighbors we spoke with.
I'm feeling pretty good.
In the Boulevard
Could be worse.
area, who obviously are shocked about what exactly happened here. So far, Atlanta police haven't released any details on any arrests, but obviously if you know anything, you are asked to give them a call, because they obviously want to piece together and figure out what exactly happened, Ariel.
Yeah, Tyler, I'd imagine that this is something police are trying to figure out more on. You know, it's just wild to think about how this happened, and the thought that this could have been anyone. You know, it happened to a rideshare driver. What if there had been a passenger in the back seat of that car, right? It could have been just another person driving down the street. We don't yet know if this was targeted, but it kind of sounds like it was random based on what we know police are saying so far. Would you say that's correct?
Based off the press release that was put out today, it does not indicate whether this was targeted or random or not. But I mean, just by the nature of what was written and released to news outlets, it does sound like this may have been some sort of random incident, especially since that rideshare driver ended up having to drive himself to the hospital. And he brought up a good point. This could have been anyone. That's what I was saying when I was talking to one of the neighbors. I said, you live a half a block away from where this happened. You could have been driving home and you could have been hit. Another thing to point out, Boulevard is a big cut through, especially during rush hour. If you try to drive down from Monroe and then it comes in here to Boulevard, people use this to try to avoid the downtown connector. So at 4, 5, and 6 o'clock, this can be a very busy thoroughfare. Obviously at 1 o'clock in the morning, not the case, but during a rush hour time period, this can be a very busy thoroughfare. So this could have been anyone, especially if this was a stray bullet, which is what that neighbor was saying it could have been, just by the nature of how police announced this and what police are releasing about what happened.
Tyler, really good to know. My thought also, just goes to the idea of a lot of us when we get into ride shares, Ubers, Lyft, what have you, we often think about, safety and protecting ourselves from the driver because they're not someone we know very well. This is a good reminder of the risks that rideshare drivers face also, right? There are things that they encounter as they drive and do this job, and so it's just good to be mindful no matter who you are and what the situation is. So, Tyler, thanks so much for joining us and making sense of this story. We really appreciate it. And I will see you live here as the afternoon continues. live hours progress. And Tyler, thanks for your reporting. Guys, we're going to move on here because I want to tell you about a trial date that has been set for a teenager accused of killing her mother and stepfather. I'm talking about Sarah Grace Patrick, and if you're not familiar with this story, she is the teen accused of killing her parents, 41-year-old Kristen Brock and 45-year-old James Brock, in their Carrollton home on February 20th of last year, 2025. She was 17 years old at the time and turned herself in on July 8th. She faces 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. At a Tuesday hearing, both prosecutors and defense attorneys said they're ready for trial. They're waiting for a neurophysical evaluation report that is expected after Christmas. The judge said the trial is going to proceed on January 5th unless fairness requires a delay. So that trial is set for next Monday. Outside court, we know that Patrick's grandfather continues to defend her innocence, saying no weapon has been recovered and no physical evidence is linking her to these killings. Some key details remain unknown, including the contents of this expert report that it's supposed to have information about how she might have done this, and also how her online activity might factor into the case. But ultimately, that Carroll County judge has set the trial date for January 5th. She is charged as an adult in the deaths of her mother and stepfather, and we'll keep you updated for sure as this here progresses. Coming up here, we realize that we're following some other stories that I want to continue to keep you updated on. Another one actually deals with a mayor that has been or is being sworn in currently as we speak. There's a ceremony underway, and we know that this mayor is the youngest mayor in Stockbridge history taking the oath of office. You can see a live ceremony that's underway there at City Hall in Stockbridge. But 22-year-old Jaden Williams actually defeated a 2-time incumbent in November, making history while also pursuing a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science at Clark Atlanta University. So safe to say 22-year-old Jaden Williams has been a busy guy pursuing his college education while also winning the mayor's seat there in Stockbridge. After his election, Williams said the victory reflects a desire for change in Stockbridge residents, and he says he wants to make sure every single resident feels accommodated and living there. A lot of young professionals and new residents, working families, teachers have all moved into the Stockbridge area here recently, and he says he wants to make sure that they feel represented within as they live there in the community. So we'll continue to keep you updated on that story. You are taking a live look as that ceremony is underway. Our Angelique Proctor is going to cover this story for us coming up later this afternoon. But I want to move on here and keep you updated with a story that's really touching a lot here in our community. And our Kevin Stewart's following this for us. It involves a freshman at the University of Georgia who was really seriously hurt in an accident skiing. So Kevin, if you can hear me, what do you know about this situation? Has the community been rallying around this skier?
Yeah, they've been raising money to get him home from Colorado. His ski trip was 2.5 weeks ago. He got into a serious accident. We're still unclear how that happened because the young man has a TBI, traumatic brain injury. He doesn't remember exactly what happened. I had a chance to talk to him in the hospital in Colorado. His family is trying to raise money for his rehab and his transport back here to Atlanta, here at the Shepherd Center, where he will undergo rehabilitation. But this is a pretty sad situation. This was a winter break from college. He's a finance student at UGA, hanging out with his friend and his father, his friend's father. They went on a skiing trip and he got into an accident. He was found unconscious. His friend had been looking for him, and then someone, a passerby, somehow found him, and they took him to the hospital in the Denver metro area. And right now, they're just trying to figure out what's next. Take a listen to what this young man does remember about what happened and how he's doing right now.
I'm feeling pretty good. Could be worse. I definitely feel like there's some room for improvement, but right now I'm about as good as I can be. Well, I used to live in Utah, so I used to ski a good bit, but that was my first time skiing in a while, so I was kind of getting the hang of it, and then I guess it all went downhill.
He wasn't doing so great on the slopes the first couple of days, and so he was texting me and my daughter, asking us for tips. Not that we're experts by any means, but he just kept falling a lot, and he was asking us for tips, so we were giving him tips. And the next morning I woke up and I texted him and I said, Aiden, please, let me just buy you some, individual lessons before you go out on the slopes today. I'm just not really feeling good about it. To be honest with you, I said, I don't want you to get hurt or killed. I literally said those words in a text. And a few hours later, I got a call from the urgent care where they had him down in Keystone telling me that my son had a severe skiing accident. And the worst part, I guess, was when they said they don't know his outcome.
Now, as you heard him say, he is doing better, 18-year-old Sager, but he's got a long recovery ahead of him. You can see some signs of that brain injury when you see his mouth drooping there, but he is definitely in good spirits, and you can imagine how uneasy his family must feel considering that text and to see what happened. Ariel?
Kevin, it's so heartbreaking to think this was not someone who was his first time on the slopes. He had done this a time or two, and he was pretty good at it. And the fact that this could happen, I think it's just a good reminder for all of us to be so careful, but ultimately we can't predict what's going to happen. I'm so glad that he's okay and he's making progress. If people are streaming along and they want to help him, or they want to know more about how they can get involved with supporting his family, is there a way to do that?
Yeah, there's a GoFundMe set up in his name. A family friend set up the account and is working with the family in conjunction. So if you go to GoFundMe, go to the Fox 5 Atlanta Facebook page later in the day, you'll be able to donate and help them raise the funds to get him back here to Atlanta and begin his much needed physical therapy.
Kevin, thanks so much for bringing this story to our attention. Definitely wishing him all the best, especially consider this young man just starting college at UGA, and then this happened. So Kevin, thanks so much for bringing this to our attention. Guys, we're going to move on here because we have a couple other stories I wanted to let you know about. Coca-Cola is planning some layoffs from its downtown headquarters. And we know that about 75 jobs are going to be cut, roughly 2.5% of its Atlanta-based workforce. 3,100 people are employed at the headquarters there in downtown Atlanta, and about 75 employees are expected to lose their jobs. This is part of an ongoing company-wide restructuring. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution first reported this, but we know that the reductions are tied to a broader corporate reorganization that was first announced back in October. In a statement, Coca-Cola says it's continuing to reshape its organization to support future growth. They note that some positions are being eliminated, others are being created as the company adapts to changes in consumer demand, technology, and innovation. And, at 2 o'clock when we were talking about this, some of you here are streaming on TikTok and YouTube were commenting and saying that this reads like AI is replacing some jobs. And while that could be true, that's not what Coca-Cola has said. But I do know that there was a lot of chatter since Coca-Cola did a fully artificial intelligence-based ad this year that created a lot of stir in the marketing space. So definitely a story we'll continue to keep you updated on. As we progress here, I want to let you know very briefly where you can see the monks if you're still interested in their journey and following where they're headed, because a lot of people have really been interested in this. The Monks Peace Walk is going to take them through Walton County today as they continue on to Washington, D.C., where they're expected to reach by mid-February. They're going to make their way through Athens as well and Elberton here in Georgia before leaving the state. Then they're going to go through North Carolina and Virginia before ultimately landing there in D.C. We'll keep you updated as this progresses, but there is still a little bit of time if you want to see them here in Georgia, though that time is quickly running out. Very briefly as well, I know some of you may be wondering where we stand with a deadly investigation into a fire that happened in Switzerland, and you're actually taking video of that bar. At least 40 people were killed when a fire started. New Year's Eve celebrations were going on. Teens young as 16 years old were among those there at the building. The legal drinking age there in Switzerland is 16 years old, so there were a lot of young people celebrating the new year. And we know that just not only are there multiple people killed, 40, but others, 115, have been hurt. And ultimately, there's two discussions as to what started this fire. Investigators are looking at maybe a firecracker. They're also looking at whether a sparkler in a champagne bottle might have ignited the roof of the building there. But the stairs are very narrow in parts of the building, and a lot of people were celebrating in the basement and were trapped as this fire started. So just a horrible situation. 13 helicopters, 42 ambulances rushed to the scene, and at this point we know that a helpline has been set up for families looking for answers, also for witnesses to give statements. So this is a story we'll keep you updated on as we progress here. But also, speaking of situations that a lot of you are talking about, in Mexico, an earthquake actually interrupted the Mexican president's address. This is something that's been trending here online, as a lot of people are trying to understand what happened with this earthquake, but it interrupted President Claudia Sheinbaum's daily news briefing. You can see her looking confused before she calmly tells people, hey, we need to leave and get out. It was a pretty sizable earthquake. It actually measured 6.5 on the Richter scale, and it measured parts of southern and central Mexico. The seismic alarms blared during the president's news briefing, and as we watch this unfold, Mexico's National Seismological Agency says the quake's epicenter was actually located near the town of San Marcos. There are no immediate reports of damages or deaths, so that is good news. But as we discuss New Year's Day stories and things that did not happen, I'd like to bring this to your attention. The FBI has actually foiled a terror plot that was set to happen in North Carolina, and it was set to happen inside of a grocery store, actually New Year's Eve. Prosecutors have actually revealed in a news conference that the suspect, an 18-year-old of Mint Hill, a suburb outside Charlotte, was inspired by the Islamic State group, and that person now charged with attempting to provide material support to a terrorist organization. And I'd like to let you listen into a little bit of that news conference as attorneys updated on the investigation.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson, and thank you, Chief Hatley from the Mint Hill Police Department for your partnership in this investigation. My name is James Barnacle. I am the Special Agent in charge of the FBI here in North Carolina. Christian Sturdivant pledged his loyalty to ISIS and committed himself to killing Americans on New Year's Eve. This investigation unfolded quickly. From the moment the FBI was notified of a potential threat of a terrorist-inspired attack in North Carolina, we went all hands on deck. We assessed the credibility of the threat. The investigation lasted about 2 weeks, included numerous investigative techniques, partnerships with law enforcement agencies, and cooperation from the American public. This Christmas, the FBI and our partners worked to protect the American people. We did not let up until Sturdivant was safely in handcuffs. FBI special agents arrested him on December 31st as he was being released from a local medical facility. On Monday night, as Russ just said, the FBI's evidence response team conducted a search, an authorized search, at his home and on his cellular phone. What we found was a manifesto, which the federal complaint alleges contained detailed plans to execute a massacre on New Year's Eve as people shop, for the holidays. Without the swift action of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, New York City Police Department, the Mint Hill Police Department, and our partners at the United States Attorney's Office for the Western District of North Carolina, we could be announcing a national tragedy. Instead, a terrorist attack was thwarted. Give a little background on Sturdivant. He's a U.S. citizen. He turned 18 in December of 2025. The JTTF collected evidence showing he turned his back on his country and his fellow citizens by pledging allegiance to ISIS with the intent of becoming a martyr. We allege Sturdivant was willing to sacrifice himself by committing a terrorist attack using knives and a hammer to support the murder, torture, and extreme violence that ISIS represents.
You're listening to the special agent in charge there talk about the investigation into a foiled New Year's Eve attack that was set to happen on a grocery store in North Carolina. 18-year-old Christian Sturdivant facing federal charges now in this case, believed to be supporting the Islamic State group when he was trying to carry this out. But you're listening to the FBI special agent in charge explain how they were able to stop him before he carried out that plan. So this is a story we're going to keep you updated right here at Fox 5. I also want to check in on our TikTok and YouTube comments. Someone is asking what's the update on the Epstein files. As of right now, we know that the federal government is slowly releasing more and more of the files because of that law that was passed. They need to make all of it public. However, at this point, some lawmakers, Democratic lawmakers, are voicing concerns, saying that the slow release of the Epstein files is not so much the concern as is what docs have been withheld and what the Department of Justice has actually redacted. So that's where we are in the discussion. As more documents are made publicly available, we're going to let you know right here on Fox Local. But as of right now, no new information dumps have happened. So when that does happen, we'll let you know. Guys, you're seeing Jonathan Stacey's shoulder, so you know what's about to happen. Your weather update, that is coming up next. Welcome back, you guys. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for streaming along here with us. We've got meteorologist Jonathan Stacey. Jonathan, where are we headed weather-wise? Because I know we're looking at some rain.
Yes, most of the day we've been looking at cloud cover, and those clouds are now yielding rain, especially across far north Georgia. From northwest to northeast in our corner counties, you're getting a few showers, but we're all going to get a decent serving of some rain. So if you are thirsty for the first weekend or the first Friday of 2026, Mother Nature is about to deliver some water. By 8 o'clock tonight, it looks like the first round of rain is safely inside the metro. It is our western zones that are still getting some light to moderate showers, but as the night grows on and night turns into day, you can see here that the rain is going to really take center stage. We're looking at some heavy downpours through the overnight hours, especially around midnight. I think there is a pretty good chance that we'll have some rumbles of thunder out there as well. That continues to be our lot through the pre-dawn hours of Saturday. And you can see here there's a little lobe of energy that will be more elongated than not, stretching from the Alabama to the South Carolina state line, that basically just hangs across North Georgia as we get into the mid-morning period. So the clock is now at 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, and it's still there. So I'll be looking at our southern communities, especially along and near I-20 and to the south from one lake to the other, West Point Lake all the way out to Lake Oconee and Lake Sinclair, just to see how much rain we actually get in a relatively short window of time due to this one little string of energy that the models are hinting at that will likely outstay its welcome. As we get into the midday period, there could still be a few straggling cells out there, but they'll be more isolated than not. But it's down to the south where we will turn our attention. But when we speak of the south, we should also include Thomaston, Upson County in the mix, along with any of our border counties to Fox 5. You're watching us from all over. So if you have interest southward tomorrow, meaning across middle Georgia, even southern Alabama, but certainly southern Georgia, along with the extreme southern part of South Carolina and the panhandle of Florida, get ready to rock and roll. There's a 1 out of 5 risk for severe storms tomorrow. I wouldn't sleep on it, but nonetheless, no matter how you put it, especially if you're driving, traveling, even by air, this is going to be a doozy. It's quite the mess. And this is really from Montgomery all the way down to Mobile first thing tomorrow, and then into the afternoon, the storms are going to really crank up from Macon. So I-75, I-16, I-95, and I-85, all a part of the conversation of course, I-10 as you move down to the Gulf. Okay, that's out of here by the time you head to bed on Saturday night going into Sunday morning. We'll preserve Sunday. We'll keep it dry with a few passing clouds, but we'll have some fierce winds out of the north in the wake of a cold front. You know how it works. It chills down after the rain goes out, but we're not going to get downright chilly or frigid by any standard. We're going to keep some warm weather around. You'll see that on the 7-day forecast. Tonight is prime time for the big time rains. The latest models pulling in. It keeps on moving, but this is all ending by the time we get to Saturday midday. Looks like some communities could end up with over an inch of rainfall. Some models are a bit more conservative, but how about this? Here's how your Saturday works out. Yes, a rumble of thunder may wake you up, but it will not put you to sleep. So it's the second half of your Saturday that you can really capture, and the second half of your weekend that will bring you sunshine. Temperatures in the 40s to start, some 30s outside of the city for Sunday morning. By Sunday afternoon, temperatures pressing towards the 60-degree mark. If you don't make it Sunday, you'll make it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Wow. Jonathan, I can't believe this is a January forecast, if we're being honest.
I know. It gives April vibes.
It really, really does. I would like, you're gonna come for me on this. I would love some snow days like last year.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I would, guys. It's January. I feel like a couple snow days should happen.
I wish you all would quit talking about this.
Jonathan says, let me be with my 70 degrees. All right. You're going to get it, Jonathan. Clearly you have it.
There's a hint of a big downturn that you can't see on the 7-day forecast. It would come next Sunday.
And that's on job security. So we'll be talking to you about it as we get closer, Jonathan.
We sure will.
Thanks so much.
Peace out.
Guys, we're going to mix it up and go national here quickly because Randy in our TikTok chat is asking for the latest on the Israel-Iran war. So I want to let you know where we stand. Right now, there's no big updates in terms of the Israel-Iran conflict. Nothing crazy to tell you about, but the situation is tense. So let me tell you where we stand with the protests that started in Iran because we know that protests actually started Wednesday after an economic crisis sparked mass protests. This happened after a record currency fall there in Iran against the United States dollar. You're looking at video from the southern Iranian city of Fasa, which is about 450 miles south of the capital of Tehran. You can see protesters trying to breach the governor's office and shots being fired on the street. Footage from Tuesday night also showed clashes with security forces in the western city of Hamadan. Iran appointed a new central bank governor Wednesday after the previous one stepped down. Experts say a 40% inflation rate is leading to this public discontentment. So a lot of people are really frustrated with the cost of things and affordability. Many traders and shopkeepers closed their businesses Sunday and took to the streets and cities to protest. And I've actually been seeing on social media a lot of people there in Iran calling on security forces to lay down their weapons, saying you're affected by this crisis as much as we are. Merchants and traders have have kept their shops closed in the main bazaars of Tehran, as well as in the southern city of Shiraz, to try to make sure that they are not affected commercially. But this is something we're going to keep an eye on because it has domestic ramifications over here. And that is because President Donald Trump is threatening to intervene if Iran kills peaceful protesters. The president actually shared via Truth Social today that if Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, the United States of America is going to come to their rescue. He also wrote in his post that the United States was locked in and ready to go. Trump's warning, of course, coming as these demonstrations have been happening, triggered by Iran's deteriorating economy. This is very interesting. We don't know what any U.S. intervention would look like, whether or not the president would actually send U.S. forces or send a proxy. But that's something that we're going to continue to keep you updated on, especially since international reports say that at least 7 people, including protesters and members of Iran's security forces, have been killed during clashes. Senior Iranian officials have fired back at the president, saying that U.S. intervention might spark chaos in the region. So, Randy, I know you were asking about Iran. If you have any other questions about the status and where things are, let me know and I will get to you on that. If you guys have any other questions about the stories we're covering, let me know. But here in the meantime, we've got some other things coming up here. If we have a little bit of time, I'd like to talk to you about the president's tariffs and where we stand there. But first, we are going to talk to a local about how we can make better goals here in the new year, a local author and business leader, and how we can cultivate a sense of purpose as we approach making ourselves better here in 2026. So that's coming up. You're taking a look at a picture of his book. We're going to talk to Shane Jackson here coming up next. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for streaming here with us on our Friday afternoon. I'd like to talk to you about how we can find our purpose in the new year and how to build better habits. We have a local author and business leader here, Shane Jackson, joining us. And Shane, you know, I think so many people suffer from this cycle of guilt and pressure when the new year comes. We feel like we have to be better and instantly this new human when a new year comes, but maybe that's not the best approach.
Yeah, we've come up with this societal thing about resolutions, and resolutions has kind of become a code word for I'm going to say I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do it for about 3 weeks, and then I'm going to quit. And it's almost become this joke. But if you think about resolutions, like it comes from the root word resolve. Resolve has two connotations. One is you resolve a problem or you resolve a conflict, and the other is you make a firm commitment. I resolve to do this, right? I'm resolute. And so if you think about the idea of a resolution, what it really ought to be is a firm commitment to solving some kind of a problem or conflict in your life. The reason we don't keep resolutions isn't because we're not disciplined or can't follow through on things. It's because the things that we're committing to simply aren't important enough to us. They're not big enough problems. And if we think about and focus on those things that are really, truly important to us, and we concentrate on that, the actions and the habits that help us solve those problems or just those important things actually become pretty doable.
Shane, I love hearing you talk about this because my wheels are turning and applying it to my own life. And I think about the times where I resolved to eat healthier, right? And it's just a resolution. I don't really end up sticking to it. And I wonder why it's so hard. But then I get my lab work back and I see that my blood sugar is really high. And suddenly something clicks in my brain like, oh, this is serious. And suddenly now I'm not trying to do something. This has become very important to me. And I want to make a change. And it's like I switch from resolution to lifestyle and habit changes. How can we develop that mindset and focus on building those better habits?
It's such a great example that you use. It's an analogy I use all the time as well. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to have a better diet. And then you get the lab work or you have the heart attack. And it's like, no, actually, this is really important to me. And it's focusing there. One of my favorite just kind of little things that I use is in any moment, I always ask myself, what's the most important thing I could do right now? Right? Well, we get into these times where it's just we're kind of just doing our thing. We're going on autopilot, doing kind of what other things we feel like other people think we should do, or we get overwhelmed, right? There's just too many things and I don't know what to do. And it's this settling question of what's the most important thing I can do right now? But it requires you to go back and think about like what's really important. And a great way to frame that is when in the future, when I look back on this moment, what's the thing I will wish I had done? Which makes us consider the long term and what the ramifications for us and other people are going to be of our actions. And it also focuses on, okay, but what's the experience I want to have right now? And those drum up some values, some purposes that are really important and can change our behavior.
Shane, you talk about the 60-second purpose reset, I understand. How do we go from no guilt, no perfection? What is this 60-second purpose reset? What are some strategies you have to help us through this?
Yeah, so a lot of it is that question and those two questions I just referenced. What's the most important thing I can do right now? And then what's the thing that I will be glad that I did? And it's these moments where it's just like, oh man, I've got too much to choose from. What's the most important thing I can do right now? And another strategy that I really like on this is the thing, I call it a pebble in my shoe. Like you've ever been out hiking or like walking on, you get a pebble in your shoe. Like you can keep walking, but you can't ignore it. Like you feel the pebble in your shoe. And so it's finding these things in your life that are these little hints that are going to just get your attention. You can make a choice to ignore it, but you have to choose. And so it may be something as simple as saying like, hey, I'm gonna every time that red in and Netflix comes up, every time I see that, that's gonna be a pebble, and it's gonna force me to answer the question, do I want to watch Netflix right now, or do I want to read a book? Right? And it's just putting those little things in your life that help you just kind of reset and say, am I doing the thing right now that's important? Am I going to do the thing right now? The choice I'm making, is it the one that I'm going to be glad I made?
Shane, you wrote a book. Tell me a little bit about it as we wrap up here, because I want to make sure that people have the strategies they need for success. And you were describing a little bit of what we can do. I'm going to take our banner down here so people can see the whole picture of your book. But you have this book, This is the Thing. Tell me a little bit about it here as we wrap up.
What we do, and this is the thing, is just start tackling some of these kind of big questions in life that seem like they're just too big, right? Like, what's purpose? Why am I here? Like, no one can understand that. Actually, you can. It's pretty simple. And just in an approachable way of thinking about what those things are for you and answering this question of what's the experience of life that I want to have? In other words, what's my purpose of life? And then giving people very, very practical things. These are just things that I've done in my life. None of this is rocket science. I'm not smart enough for that. I have to have things that like actually enable me to live this in the midst of everything else going on. One of the things I tell people is that when you really start understanding your purpose and have clarity on the experience that you want to have in your life, it will probably lead you to making some changes of saying, I'm doing things right now that I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do something else. But it will definitely enable you to see the life that you're living currently differently and see the opportunities that you have to live purposefully, even among all the things going on in your life today.
Shane, thank you so much for joining us. Business leader, author from Alpharetta. I appreciate your time and sharing how we can find our purpose in the new year. I think as we look to make ourselves better humans, looking at how we can do that in a long-term sustainable way is always so important. So thanks for your insight today and your time.
Thank you, Ariel. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Okay, guys, coming up, we've got some other things to get to. We're going to introduce you to a pastor who's walking across America. Chris Rosenthal is going to take us there. And then we're going to take you out live to a boat show, something you can visit here in the next week. That's coming up next. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstad. Thanks so much for streaming with us here on your Friday afternoon. I'm going through TikTok and YouTube. If you got questions on the stories we're covering today, there's something you want to see that I haven't touched on, let me know. Some of you were asking about Israel and Iran, so we talked about that, as well as where we stand with the Epstein files based on your comments. A story I want to let you guys know about today involves a pastor who's kicking off a new journey to walk across America. Chris Rosenthal joins us to show why he's doing this. And it seems like we've been talking a lot about these walks across America, but Chris has the purpose behind this pastor's journey. Let's check it out.
Pastor Corey Brooks started his journey in September of 2025 in New York City and is planning to make it all the way to California by September 2026. Well, he spent the past week here in Atlanta meeting with people, holding some big events, raising money, and I caught up with him a little bit earlier today walking through Buckhead. Tell me a little bit more about about his initiatives.
So we're walking across America to bring attention and awareness to what we're trying to accomplish on the south side of Chicago in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the country called O Block, named after a young man named O.D. Perry who was shot and killed. The gangs picked up the O in his name, started calling it the O Block. We decided we wanted to do something about it, and so we changed it to Opportunity Block, and currently we're building a 90,000 square foot Leadership and Economic Opportunity Center. We're starting a boys and girls private school. We need seed money to start an endowment because we try to stay away from government assistance, and so have to be creative and walk across America to raise funds to do it and create a model for what can be done across America.
You've been in Atlanta now for about the past week or so. How's it been? What have been some of the interactions you've had? I know you had a big event at the Gateway Center today.
We've had some great interactions. The people of Atlanta have treated us really good. We had a great event at the Gateway Center where we fed over 350 homeless individuals. Taronda Jones gathered some of her friends. She's an actress on some of the shows that we see on TV. She gathered a great group of her friends, celebrities and music and producers to help us out, and man, it was a great event, and we've had people walk with us, and Atlanta has been a blessing, so thank you so much.
And you're doing sort of community events along the way, huh?
Yeah, we want to do community events along the way. It's important that, we're coming in the city, we're going to be leaving those cities, but there are a lot of non-for-profits, NGOs who are doing great work. So we try to partner with them to bring attention and awareness to what they're doing so that when we leave the city, we can still enhance the city by helping those organizations. And so we try to find organizations that have some of the same values that we have.
Next stop, talk to me about that.
Next stop, we have these detour events where we stop in a city and go to the next city. So we're going to go to Naples. We're going to drive to Naples, Florida. Then on Monday, we'll be back on the outside of Atlanta, walking toward Alabama. So we'll continue our walk until we get all the way to Los Angeles, California in September. So that's our stopping point. So got a long way to go, a lot of money to raise. We raised $2.5 million already. Our goal is to raise $25 million.
How many miles so far in Atlanta? How many miles are you doing here?
So we've done the 50 miles inside of Atlanta, and we need to do another 20 somehow, some way before Monday so we can get to our starting point where we need to be outside of Atlanta so we make it to Alabama on time. Otherwise, we're going to be a day late.
People want to donate?
People want to donate, please go to projecthood.org. That's HOOD, projecthood.org, and we really, really appreciate anything that you can do.
His next stop is Naples, Florida. Then he'll be back up here in Atlanta and then off west across the country. Back to you.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chris. Thanks for showing us his journey, where we're headed. Looks like he's got a very joyful spirit, and his mission is right at the purpose of what he's doing. So we're going to move on here because if you're it is January, but maybe you've got some boat shenanigans on your mind as you look ahead towards summer. Our Eli Jordan is out showing us a boat show that's going on. And Eli, looks like you just need some water and you can really get going.
Yeah, that's true, right? And I'm out here at the Georgia World Congress Center, and they're moving in 400 boats for display for next week's boat show. And it runs from January 8th, which is Thursday, through January 11th, which is a Sunday. But I'll tell you what, there's some really cool boats out here, and I'm in a pontoon boat, and this is not your mother's pontoon boat. This is a really cool pontoon boat because it's got heated seats, fine Corinthian leather, and a cup holder with a chiller. Yeah, and it's just really, really cool. It's costs as much as my house, but that's what's going on out here. We have a whole bunch of crews out here moving boats in here. It takes them a week to get this place all lined up with boats, and that's what they're doing. They've been out here since 5 o'clock this morning, moving boats, getting them in position, and they'll be down here all week doing it. But I'm with Sonny Remillard. He is with you're with Water Sports Central, right?
Yep.
And so, Sonny, tell me, what is the appeal of boats here in Atlanta? I mean, we're not a coastal city.
Yeah, but we have many great inland lakes here. A lot of places to have a lot of fun.
So are these pontoon boats your groups?
Yes.
And so these look a heck of a lot cooler than the old school pontoon boats we're used to seeing.
Today's pontoon boat is not your grandfather's pontoon boat anymore at all.
How are they different besides just the look and the style, I guess?
Luxury, speed, performance, just the feel, the way they're built, completely different setup. They're just in today's realm for sure.
I mean, this one actually, if you look at it, it looks like a Cadillac almost from the front. And, I mean, these are very impressive. And so, I mean, are pontoon boats still as popular as they have been, or are they gaining popularity, or what?
They are still very, very popular amongst everybody, really.
Why are they so popular, would you say?
Young and old. Say what?
Why are they so popular, would you say?
I think because a lot of people really understand that boating is all about family and fun, and they actually realize they can just put all their family on this boat and go have a lot of fun.
But these are the higher end boats. These cost several $100,000, I would expect, right?
Yes.
And but is that the way that boats are going, or is it?
We still sell price point boats, but a lot of the boats are middle and higher end.
Do you have one of these boats, Sonny? You want to go
one
out?
of these? No, I don't have one personally, no.
These are really nice. And so you told me that they have heated seats, a chilling cup holder, and they even have like a place for dishes?
Yeah, I mean, it's even fun for the family pets to come out.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
But you got your dog and water bowls, so yeah, they try to think of everything on these boats now.
So this isn't only luxury for humans, this is luxury for pets as well. And is this powerful enough to pull, a little party of some?
Absolutely.
What kind of motors do these things usually have?
So this one right here has the Mercury 400 on it, Verado. The one next to us has twin 500 horsepower racing Mercury motors on it, 1,000 horsepower combined.
1,000 horsepower for a family pontoon boat.
Yep.
So I guess the fishermen have their fast boats to get out to the fishing spot, and then the families can have their fast boats to get out to the picnic spot, I guess.
Absolutely.
And so I guess you guys are going to be out here all week, and then into the next week. That's when the
correct
show starts in
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Real quick, what do you hope people will come away with as they come, see the boat show?
I hope people can bring their families out and everybody can just have a great time. They can find a boat that fits their needs and their styles, and yeah, they can just have a lot of fun doing it.
How important is it to find the right boat for your needs?
It's very important to find the right boat for your needs. So I would tell everybody to make sure that they're talking to a salesman that can absolutely hone in on exactly what they need for them and their family.
Awesome. Well, Sonny, thank you very much for your time today. And Ariel, what's happening here is at the World Congress Center, they are getting the boats moved in. This is a week-long process because they got big boats. These boats are heavy. They get them in here. They bring them in on trailers, and they lift them up with forklifts, or some of the bigger boats. They bring in diesels with cranes and stuff, and they have to lift them and take them off. So it takes a whole week to get set up. So come out here next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, the 8th through 11th, and you can check out a boat, and you can go cruising around and get a suntan and go skiing and be the coolest person in the neighborhood.
Eli, thanks so much for giving us a look. Some of those boats really are truly sweet, especially the one with the pet water and food bowl. I haven't seen that before. That's pretty cool. Eli, Jordan, thanks so much for giving us a sneak peek. And thank you guys so much for streaming along here with us. If you got questions, let us know. But in the meantime, the news is going to continue here at 4 o'clock. I'm Ariel Onstadt, and it's been great to see you here on your Friday afternoon.